Good afternoon. I guess IBM takes a bit more of a practical stance, perhaps about this technology. It's not really a new technology for us. IBM wrote the code for the Hyperledger and contributed it to the Linux Foundation, and has been working on it ever since. 39 is the number of global scale blockchains that we have in operation today. And that is continuously growing. Those are the publicly referenceable ones, and clearly there's plenty more going on behind the scenes. Supply chain is just one aspect of blockchain. We use it internally for our asset management on all our hardware, and we also use it in finance, and we use it in permitting as well. But supply chain is a really big use case, and it's where we see most of our global blockchains happening. So I'll talk you through some case studies in a bit, and we'll take a look at those, and that gives some example of how it can practically work. So why is blockchain that suitable for supply chain? High volumes, high velocity of transactions across the globe, amongst low trust fraternity, which you'll all be familiar with in construction, and is not a uniquely construction thing. It applies to pretty much anyone who buys anything anywhere. And the high friction of doing business across global borders, receipting, POs, invoicing, all that kind of stuff just adds friction to your business, slows you down, and leads to loss of value. And those are the type of things that blockchain can start to take away. So I would categorize supply chain blockchain into two major types. The first is provenance. So how do you prove where your materials came from? And we've got a variety of those you can see on the screen here. IBM Food Trust is probably the most close to consumers' hearts, so tracking and tracing all of the food for Walmart and now Carrefour, and increasing amounts of food on that. But this one here is really relevant to construction industry. So the ethical sourcing of cobalt and other materials, and purely it's about reputation, it's about proving that what the materials you're using, where they came from. So Ford have joined up with a mining company to prove where their cobalt comes from, which goes into the batteries for electric vehicles. And that's the way they're going to use it. And we are extending that into other metals and other minerals as well. So that's up and working. And clearly the central one there around diamonds as well, that's been around for quite some time, for a number of years. But basically you can put any asset on the blockchain, prove where it originated from, prove what's happened to it, and where it's going. The second type of major use case in supply chain is really that business friction reduction. So here's some of our premier reference cases. Unilever, for example, saves 64% of the cost of doing invoicing by moving to a blockchain system, and they are already best in class. So cost of servicing an invoice was about $4.20, something like that. Using blockchain, it's gone down to just over $1 per invoice. So really dramatic increases or reductions in costs. TradeLens is the new name for the Maersk global shipping. And WorldWire is about FX, so facilitating trade across the world. And that's joined by things like WeTrade, which is another blockchain, which we built with 14 banks across Europe, facilitating trade and allowing trade finance for small businesses who want to ship across borders. So making a real difference to businesses, cutting their costs, increasing certainty, and reducing risk. And then we do some specific stuff with major companies like the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company around the certification of their product, and that flows throughout their company, reducing internal friction as well as external friction. So those are some practical use cases that we're seeing today and that we're building. Looking towards tomorrow, I guess this is where it gets really exciting, because today we're doing process optimization using blockchain. Tomorrow we're looking towards tokenization, increasing amounts of IoT connectivity. So we have IBM Research, on which we spend several $1 billion a year, looking at how you connect all sorts of technologies and how you develop new crypto anchors to link the physical asset to the blockchain. Combining tokenization and IoT leads to automated transactions, and then you're able to do supply chain operations with no humans in the loop, error-free, friction-free, and that's when it gets really quite exciting. So you can imagine, for example, buildings raising a request for a replacement part, that part being ordered, delivered, receipted, and paid for with no human interaction whatsoever. And that's the new business models, and that has some really interesting effects. Moving on to the circular economy thing, so new business models around will you actually purchase materials for your building, or will you just lease them? Because in 60 or 70 or 100 years' time, I have a robust record of what's happened and what that material is, so I can recover it straight back into the economy. So some really interesting thought leadership work that we're doing there with some of our clients as well. It is not for the faint-hearted, some of this stuff, and it does have some challenges and some barriers, which make it a really fascinating technology to work with. And one of those is the fact that it is fundamentally transformational. So this is not something that you can use tactically to improve a small part of your business. This is going to change everything that you do, and not everything that you do, but everyone that's in your supply chain as well. So consequently, it needs to be done at market level, at global level, by companies that are big enough, or groups of companies that are big enough to sustain a major market change. And that means you've got to collaborate. And that's not always a natural position for commercially orientated companies. My background is construction and engineering, so I'm very well versed in that, but it is equally applicable to other sectors. So we need new ways of working, new ways to share data, new ways to understand what is necessary to get these things off the ground. And then, of course, you come on to the fact that this is going to be owned by somebody, there's going to be some new business models there, and there are governance issues to be sorted out. But our practical working with clients is leading us to develop some really robust models and to provide that help and support for clients who want to get there. So there's a lot of stuff behind this, and there's a ton of stuff on our website, but please feel free to get in touch if you've got any more questions about what we're up to.